As you all know, being a founder, a business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur, really anywhere in our life, it really requires resilience and a continuous commitment to growth. And I'm super excited today to have Jennifer Keenan, MBA, and Todor Simeonov, Ph.D., who will discuss best practices and self-management tools for continued growth and resilience, which can be applied to all areas of life. For those of you that know Jennifer, you know that she's an inventor, a diverse business executive, and board director with the heart and voice of an entrepreneur. She helps founders, executives, and startups solve problems and grow. Todor is a wellness and mental health professional, as well as the founder of the Bulgarian Association of Reality Therapy. Super excited to have them both here today. Regarding how today is going to go, just a reminder that during the discussion, anytime, feel free to ask questions in the chat. If Jennifer or Todor do not get to the questions during the discussion, then we will have a Q&A at the end and we'll make sure to answer your questions then. So without further ado, Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Hillary. I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can share my slides here in a moment. All right, is everybody able to see?
Yes.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for taking time to speak with Todor and I today. When Hillary reached out about this request, it feels like from a human standpoint, all of us have been managing the pandemic in so many different ways, right? And those of us that are managing a business or own a startup or are in private practice may face some additional challenges with support systems, perhaps access to capital or resources just in general. And then for those people that have children or families that they're supporting on top of that, it's created an extra wide space to talk about what best practices we all use to support ourselves, but also to support those around us, right? So even if we're not a parent, or say we're just starting out with a business, or moving on to the next opportunity, what sort of skills do we personally put in to play every day, and what sort of practices do we back those skills with in order to ensure that we don't end up ill, or if we are ill, that we recover quickly and bounce back. And that really defines, in the simplest terms, resilience, right? What does it mean to bounce back? So I'm gonna give sort of a layman's overview of what resilience and growth has meant for me as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and also someone who has invented products and solutions both inside of large corporations and also as an independent business person for the last couple of years in the startup world. One of the biggest areas of focus that I've had is really personal development, right? So I had people throughout the course of my career helping me develop as a personal leader, as a human, right? And then I also engaged in personal practices and set my own terms and continued to do that as I launched a business. And one of the best ways that any of us can really focus on bringing ourselves forward each day, or bringing our best selves and really answering that question, how do I want to show up, is to have some sort of personal development plan. We don't have to pay anybody to do that as an individual practitioner. If you're a startup founder or you're running a company and you're, a Fortune 500 CEO, you can have your own personal development plan, and it is equally important to your business plan. So a lot of focus, and I've done talks on this before, training on business planning. Personal development planning is equally important, and that can include several different topics, right? Both for your forward growth and human experience, but also just for everyday health and enjoyment. The more time that passes, the more we realize that unless we have some sort of goal, daily or yearly, moving forward, we really aren't meeting our personal needs and our professional needs if we're not focusing on ourselves as a human and also giving to those around us. So there's a focus, I think, to separate ourselves from being human and also being a business owner. And when you're out in the world and you don't have, say, financial backing or a large corporation, I've watched this with myself and also other startup founders who I've mentored or supported, some who've been in business for years, some who are very new to their practice. there's a high emphasis on, when are you going to raise, how are you going to scale, how are you, and all this is important. But at the end of the day, we really have to think about how we're developing ourselves and bringing a positive and supportive and bright human being to work every day. And that natural aptitude and, I'll say, sunny disposition, I think brings the business success your way, right? So if you're really thinking about what makes you happy and you're setting milestones for yourself, being specific, like for instance, I, in the last year, have integrated yoga practices into most days of my week, with or without a studio. Studios recently became open. Not everybody loves yoga. It has a transformative effect on both my mind, my body, and my spirit. And the practices resonate both professionally and personally with me. So an achievement or an outcome was being able to see both a physical effect and also a spiritual or mindfulness result in how I practice business every day. Some days I start at the beginning of my day. Sometimes it's at the end of the day. Sometimes I, do a short practice or rest and even just close my eyes and do a meditation or something restorative. Some people walk, some people garden, but at the end of the day, I set out with a goal over the last couple of years of increasing my practice and deepening it. And I kicked that off with a training. There are all different types of ways that we can set a milestone. The importance of what I'm saying is really just pick whatever that milestone is for you and integrate it into your day to make sure that it happens, and then revisit it on a regular basis. So if that's a week, if that's a month, whatever makes sense for you. Setting some sort of stretch goal for yourself. So here's another personal example. I have had intervals in my life where I go car-free intentionally. And given that I've been working on devices and services that work for cyclists, walkers, and commuters outside of vehicles, but also in tangent with vehicles, it made sense for me to really live that experience again. And I decided to primarily use public transportation, cycling, and movement outside. That is a huge commitment. For anybody here that's ever been a commuter, really thinking about how that transforms your day and having to rearrange your life and plan out when you're traveling and where you're going. So this could be you want to build a new house, right? Or you have a goal of building your next vacation home, or you would like to take your family away for a month when traveling is safe, right? So any of the goals that you set can be key, but the importance is really picking something that's challenging and working at it slowly and ardently. And the transformation that I've experienced has been unparalleled in my career. I'm more efficient, I'm more effective, and I do way more with way less. And for those of us on the call that have been a solopreneur before or a business owner, that can be more than a check or a raise or a new customer, right? If you have more energy and you're able to move more efficiently throughout your day, that milestone then, or the goal that you've set, has produced an outcome that has helped your business, but also has personally helped you. Todor, do you have thoughts?
Thank you, Jen. I really like your approach and what you said about aim for the bigger goals, but then do it in small steps, because the neuroscience of that is that when we do win, when we do make small steps and have small wins, actually dopamine flows in the brain, and we are conditioned and wired for more success, and this is driving us forward. And I also wanted to mention that I often think of people as creatures of energy, and we do not contemplate much on that. What I mean, we, as you also walked us through, kind of spend energy all the time on care for our bodies, food, sleep, medication, sex, on different activities like going to work. We spend a lot of our times on activities like doing business or going to our regular jobs, also hobbies or house chores. And then there is the social realm in which our connections, networking, and our relations with our loved ones are, and we invest a lot. And finally, but very important, is our inner world, our mind. We spend a lot of energy on fostering our ideas and spending times planning for the future. Also, our fears and dreams are there. So we need a support system that can add energy back, because we obviously spend a lot. So it should be holistic, as you pointed out. What works for yourself, it's yoga, because yoga is philosophy that encompasses all these aspects of life. But people should go for what is good for them, because there is no recipe. And for me, it's meditation and qigong. And when I say meditation, it's not only sitting quiet and emptying your head of thoughts, but it's walking out in nature, or painting or dancing, spending time with your pets. Everything that makes you calm and relaxed actually is a form of meditation. So go there and explore different options, and you'll very easily, there is one very easy way to check what is for you and what is not. If you feel that it adds energy to your life, then maybe it's something that you should invest in. If you do it you force yourself to do it, just choose something else. So go on and explore what is your system that will give back, maintain, and grow your energy.
I had to unmute myself. Yes, exactly. Finding the right system. And, you know, just with sensitivity, so grateful that you shared the systems that work for you. With various belief systems or approaches to life. Like I've told people about how I love yoga, or it works for me. People are like, oh, geez, you seem like a hippie, you know, and not to at all defame that word, but you know, that's not why I picked up yoga. It's great for my joints. It's great for my mindset, and it keeps me fit in ways that are meaningful. It brings me peace. So whatever your choice is, I think just choosing is the first step. So when we think about building a positive and supportive network, which Todor just touched on, big piece of that puzzle is eliminating toxic people and toxic thinking, right? Learning to switch your thoughts. I myself am not a psychiatrist or psychologist or trained counselor. Luckily, we have Todor with us who specializes in these fields. I have experienced multiple work environments, multiple family situations, multiple life situations since I was a young woman. And in my own development and in coaching others throughout the course of their career, one area that I think we can all focus on, no matter how difficult our life has been, whether we lived it out of a cardboard box at one point in our life, or we grew up with a giant trust fund, or we have had nothing but success since day one, choosing how you think is one thing that you can control. Choosing to switch your thoughts, choosing how you spend your time, choosing who you spend your time with, and where you are. And of course, there's diplomacy that comes along with that, like how to communicate, right? How to arrange those relationships, how to spend time in personal thought and also in relation to others. There are many studies that are out there. I'm sure we could follow up and help support people with these tools if needed. But many studies show that high exposure to toxic thinking and toxic environments, both with people, environmental and otherwise, cause all types of illnesses, whether they be mental or physical. And if you have a choice on how to spend your time in this life. And in this moment, especially where we're living during a pandemic, where there's been so much loss, choose to take that next step to really shape your life and make it look like what you want it to, no matter how hard it is, and find the right people to surround yourself with so that you have a sounding board or supportive people who are willing to walk that road with you, provide really direct feedback. One of the things that I've experienced over the last couple of years as a business owner, there are always failures and there are always wins. And if you don't fail, you really don't know how sweet it is to win, or at least that's my opinion. And as much as I fail, I learn from that and apply it to how I move forward. One of the ways in which I've been able to support that type of thinking and mode is by keeping friends and loved ones and professionals that I've encountered throughout my career in a sort of a communication network. I may not see these individuals all the time. At times I might go for a long period without, but there are people I know who maybe they're an executive and they also are a CEO of a company, or maybe it's my mom, or maybe it's, you know, my lifelong friends who are willing to sit down with me and have conversations sometimes and just be really honest and provide feedback, but also share in the joys. And at a moment in time where we've been primarily virtual, choosing who we're interacting with and making sure that we have the right support system in place is absolutely key. So in this moment, I would invite everyone to think about who are those people in our life that we can include on a regular basis. If we have relationships that are ongoing, whether they be professional, personal, or otherwise, how do we gravitate those relationships to a place where we make them healthy and meaningful and also supportive, and engage in really knowing one another, right? Where maybe if it's a personal contact, they don't want to know about your business, but you can still share who you are. That action of sharing, again, understanding that this is an emotional type of situation, but you sharing or me sharing or someone else sharing what we're feeling and experiencing as a human right now, as a leader, as someone that owns a company, as someone trying to start something new, creates connection. And just that simple action helps us to feel better. There's a release that happens at the end. So there doesn't have to be anything momentous. There can be, but it doesn't have to be that way. Nobody has to cry. If you want to cry, that's an okay release too. If you want to sit there and just talk one-on-one and have a cup of coffee, if it ends with a hug, whatever is appropriate for whatever that relationship is, making sure that those people are in your network and you've carefully curated the people that you're interacting with on a regular basis so that you're getting honest feedback about how you're showing up as a human, but also you're getting love and support and also, I think, the warmth that comes with connecting with other people. There will be many times when any of us start a company or start something new that it isn't going to make everyone happy, right? So somebody that we love, or say a regular stalwart stakeholder in our personal network doesn't like what you're doing. That's natural. It's okay. It's okay for people to not like what you're doing all the time. I think creating boundaries, healthy boundaries, and also having rules of engagement for how you have those discussions is important. And when those individuals in your network agree to those terms, like, we need to have a respectful dialogue about this. Like, I understand you don't like this or it's making you uncomfortable, but let's talk about it and share. That's probably a sign of a healthy relationship. If someone isn't willing to speak with you respectfully or is making you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, that may not be a healthy relationship. And it may not be someone or a situation that you should include in your network, but only you get to make that decision. Kind of pausing there, I know that gravitates more into trained clinician fields. Todor, do you want to comment? Take it away.
I really like that you brought the concept of choice here, because it is what reality therapy is based on. It is based on choice theory. So we need certain skills. We need empathy to establish trust and connection, as you said. But I want to touch on that there is a dark side to this. When people sense our willingness to connect when they feel understood, they both in our personal and in our professional lives. And especially like if you are in a profession, counselor or consultant, where we genuinely are interested in people and vested to help them, people sometimes take advantage of this. So as you said, we should mind our boundaries, because empathy has a dark side, and we could feel drained from this need for care that we cultivate in ourselves as a professional and as persons. But when people on the other side are too demanding, it could be a major drainage of energy for us. So mind your boundaries, set rules. In psychotherapy, we have the psychotherapeutic settings. So we present this at the beginning of the work with the client, and you can do that in your business as well. So do not take calls after working hours, and especially now when we work mostly from home. Switch off your phones. Do not look at emails, and do not pick up phones, because of course, unless you're providing some kind of crisis intervention service, like some of my colleagues, of course, but really be mindful of your own boundaries and respect yourself, so the others could respect you as well. And the concept of people detox is really something that I enjoy, and there is nothing bad in like allowing some relationship to go off and to just focus on quality relationship in your life.
I think I've used the term people diet, right? So there are some people that are fun. There are some people, some people are not fun, right? Being someone that's been out and networked a lot in my life, you meet a lot of individuals, especially as you move along in travels or in business. And so going on a diet sometimes is pretty good, or having a regular diet, right? So it's another way to look at it. I also think the power of no. So that's boundary setting. One of the strongest investments of my time over the last several years is like learning to say no to things. And it may be an amazing thing. Like, we want you to be a mentor. We want you to be an advisor for this. We want you to volunteer for this event. We want you to be on this board. And I do all these things, in addition to, starting companies or, working or providing advisory work. And so at some point we run out of hours in the day. And so sleeping, right? We'll get to that. Like, just basic human health is very important. And so learning how to say, you know what, this is great and you are wonderful and I'm happy to do this and this, but I'm not going to show up at this and I'm not going to be here. And being really firm in that commitment. I know many of the people that are on this call or presentation today, some of whom I've spoken with frequently. And as a business owner or an entrepreneur, the amount of stress and just feeling taxed personally, like pulled in several different directions and then putting out fires. Like, for example, my phone got stolen this morning or sometime early this morning. So, I don't know where it's at. It was frustrating, but it didn't overwhelm me or annoy me. And I realized that some of the practices that we're talking about today helped me to manage that situation and wasn't running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And part of that is creating enough padding in my schedule by saying no to some things, right? Like, I've eliminated something, so I'm not wall-to-wall scheduled, and having blocks of time scheduled out during the day that allow for space for fires or extra things. So that falls into planning, but also rolling in the boundary setting so that you have enough time to maintain your network, but also to manage some of life's unexpected events. I think as we move forward in both living through the pandemic and also deciding how we want our companies, organizations, or how we want ourselves as humans to grow, really have to think about how to navigate a lot of ambiguity. There's been a lot of focus on predicting statistically in society right now where the pandemic is going and how it's going to shape our lives. And then also on a personal level, when do people get to return back to school? Or are we going to be sheltered in place? And these questions that are influencing our ability to execute work or to stand up a business or are consuming a portion of our day, right? Like some of the important people in my life who are parents have had a whole new aspect of their day because they're managing homeschooling or remote learning, which they weren't before, right? So that completely transforms your ability to meet certain milestones and metrics if you own your own company. And it's ambiguous to know how to plan your future. Say you're caring for an ill loved one, or your spouse has COVID, right? And they've been out of work or not able to return right now. There's a lot of ambiguity, knowing when resources will be in place, and resilience is really thinking about that ambiguity and taking it in stride. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I have all these personal plans in place. And if outcome A or B doesn't happen, then there's outcome C. And one of my observations in working with other founders and other business leaders, sometimes multiple outcomes can feel overwhelming to people. One of the pieces of feedback that I've received from other executives and other leaders, like you operate in a space where you kind of see like 50 different possibilities, right? And as a self-growth tool, like I'm really comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen. I'm really comfortable with ambiguity, and part of my growth, right, is thinking about interacting with other individuals who aren't, right? So first and foremost, really thinking about how do I develop my growth mindset? How do I redirect my life, but also in a way that's cognizant of how other people feel around me, right? Because we have a network of loved ones, business professionals, leaders, financiers, right? Investors, whomever you're interacting with. Our mindset and how we think every day also impacts others. So if I'm really comfortable thinking of 50 different outcomes, that doesn't mean that the person I need to go ask for $50,000 is. They probably are, but they might just want to see one particular outcome. And so part of having a growth mindset is training our brain to think in a way that allows us to grow from experiences that both result in a success and a failure, and then internalizing that and getting stronger. I would correlate this to working out. If you don't lift weights or you don't train in a gym, that's no problem, but I'm just gonna use the analogy. If I go into a gym and I use just like a 10-pound arm weight, right, for a week, by the next week or the week thereafter, it's going to be easier. And therefore, I probably need to increase the weight, because otherwise, to a healthy range, because I will stop seeing progress in my physical development because I'm maintaining a status quo, and my body naturally responds to that type of training. If you walk or you do some other type of physical workout, you probably can think of how that fits. But the same thing goes with having a growth mindset. Doing the same thing over and over again and not thinking of how we can push ourselves a little bit further when it feels right, or setting that next milestone, and then being very open to, you know what, there can be a lot of different outcomes, but I need to do something new so that I can see A, B, or C occur, is uncomfortable. And that's where growth happens. So having a growth mindset in some ways is committing to being uncomfortable, and having the right frameworks and practices and people in place to support that I'm uncomfortable kind of feeling. And so just repeating that, it's okay if you feel uncomfortable right now. It's okay if all this ambiguity is making you feel out of sorts. What really matters is centering and thinking about, where do you want to go next? And what are your goals for the end of the year? Where do you want to go at the end of the month? What are your boundaries? And integrating all the things that we've spoken about into some sort of overview so that you can continue to see business success, but personal success at the same time, both evidenced in your community around you, the people that you start naturally attracting into your life, but also in maybe it's a client increase, a revenue increase, right? You earn new customers, whatever business outcomes you want to see, by focusing on some of the personal aspects and mindset tools in terms of controlling your thoughts, fine-tuning them, whether it's Tai Chi or yoga or whatever, centering your mindfulness practices and meditations, which you could just listen to on the internet, getting your brain into a place where you can focus your thoughts and learn to switch them so that you can be more comfortable living in ambiguous times. Want to hand it over to Todor, but just a small comment there. I believe that part of what I'm touching on also lends towards healthy practices for mental health and wellness, right? So not allowing overwhelm and all the ambiguity to drive us to a place where it controls our brain. And I would want to make nobody feel bad. If you're in an experience right now where you're feeling that way, or your family member or someone you love is, that's a human response. But there is a way with various tools to rein your brain in and to really think about where you want to go and how you want to be with others, and then make the right decisions to get there. So Todor, do you want to speak on that topic?
Yes, it's great that you made that last comment, because there is a shift that we see with COVID. And it is from where we were focusing on success, profit, whatever. Now the shift is going back to ourselves, to wellness, and to things that we actually cannot control, things that are within our control and things that are outside our control. And actually the resilience is our potential for growth, to grow from adversities. Without suffering and challenges, there is no growth, actually. So it's not a matter of if resilience is trait-based, because we don't come with born with it. So it is a matter of choice. And from a reality therapy perspective, we choose to react to frustration, challenges, adversities around us in two ways: as a victim of the circumstances and of other people, or as a person who can take full responsibility of their life and reality, or at least for what is within their control, as you said. So our choices define us and our lives, and also it depends on our choices whether we fall down in the spiral into deeper frustration, or we decide to count our blessings and go on in our life. So I like the metaphor of the door closed, door open, but I often expand on it and I say, don't look for another door. There may be a window or an attic exit, or even there might not be walls around this door, so you can just move out. But we focus on the door when we are frustrated. So the key to growth mindset is when we substitute the why me with all right, that was close, I'm alive, I could go on. There is no growth without suffering, and the better prepared we are with different systems and tools, the faster and more efficiently we can bounce back from future adversities.
Agreed. And I've seen this reflected in my own life. Hopefully everyone on this session feels comfortable with my transparency. Part of doing this session is really being open about my own personal journey and experiences, but also those of others. And one of the wonderful parts of being a mentor and advisor is that when I've been connecting with other humans who are trying to lead a business, or they're looking at their finances or their pro forma, and they're lost and trying to figure out where the capital is going to come from, or where am I going to find that extra hour in my day, or I need to meet this particular person. How do I find this person? Because otherwise, our business is going to collapse. Whatever it is, part of what I think makes those conversations successful is being honest about who I am and sharing, right? So it's that it can be transactional, but it's also that creating an openness about, no matter how much experience I have or the person across the table from me has. So if it's a CEO of a large company, or if it's someone who's in their junior year in their undergraduate program who just came up with the next new Facebook, I'm really open about who I am, and I'm comfortable talking about failures that I've had and areas that I focus on. And what I've noticed in advisory and mentorship and business growth is that as a person, I've grown and I've watched others grow in that sharing. I've seen others develop. And while this session isn't talking about inclusivity, another area that I spend time both writing and reading and working in is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we share, we create an open spot with other people. As a solopreneur, that's not naturally always going to happen in your day-to-day, so that network is important. But if you create a space where you can actually be yourself or be open or vulnerable in front of somebody safely, no matter what their age, background, economic status is, it creates an opportunity for personal growth. And so part of having a growth mindset is also thinking about both yourself as a whole person, right? Like I think about myself as a whole person, but also the person across the table for me or team members, right? So I might be the CEO of my company, but at the same time, I'm also serving others, like I said, who may be in different places in their life. My company is small, whereas someone else's might be large. So as a solopreneur, you may provide direct advice to somebody that's overseeing larger spaces. That doesn't mean in that conversation or those interactions that that person has different wiring or different hemispheres as you see on the screen than yourself. What fulfills those buckets may be different, or how they manage them may be different. And thinking in those terms helps not only ourselves to grow as people or business owners, but also growing our profession and connecting with other people. And from books and my own personal experience, I would say that it's been evidenced in my own career. So it's not hard to network. And one of the areas that I get asked about quite a bit in my career is how you seem really good at networking, you meet all the right people. I don't know if there's a secret sauce or a specific way to explain it, but this picture that's on the screen right now, I think gets at how I think in some ways. I may not use all the same words, but I don't look at people like they're any better or any less. And there may be people that I encounter throughout my day that I don't want to spend as much time with because maybe their focus or their beliefs are so far in a different direction that it would take us away from our goals and milestones to spend all of our time together. But at the end of the day, knowing in the moments where we have conversation, where we can share, be ourselves, helps us determine both who we are, but also what we can offer to each other, right? So that helps you grow your business, but it also helps you grow you as a person and be more inclusive in society by looking at each person in passing or each person in our network as someone that is fulfilled by many of the same needs and desires as yourself, and not as, some high up separate individual that's off in space, or, there's so much focus, especially in the media and such, to make being a startup founder or make some of the activities that maybe people on this call are focused on glamorous and like almost untouchable. Like, everybody puts their leg, one leg at a time, into their pair of pants. So if you look at the screen, you want a more eloquent way of thinking about that. You have a whole person who has to pay their bills, who has to care for the people around them. And if we can meet each other in that space, it not only will make us a little bit more comfortable navigating the world, but it also will make us a lot more successful, both I think as business people or solopreneurs, and then also just as humans in general. Thoughts there, Todor?
So yeah, and the American psychiatrist, Dr. William Glasser, stipulated that we come with 5 basic needs. And these are our survival needs, our need for love and belonging, freedom, fun, and power. And along the way of our development, we pick, and he also called these basic instructions. And along the way, we pick specific instructions, which are our beliefs. And we produce certain behaviors in order to satisfy these basic needs. So as social beings, we satisfy our needs not alone, but in relationship with others. And the key to our happiness and thriving is being in relationship, in harmonious relationship with others. And as you said, when you sit with your client and you talk with them, you see them as a whole person, that life is affected by different aspects. We spoke about the different dimensions of life and how we spend energy on this. And the key to successful relationship, I believe, is that the realization that other people have their strive to satisfy their 5 needs, but they have very different instructions or very different beliefs from ours. And when we respect that, and when we approach others with humility, this is going to allow us to enjoy more harmonious relationships, and also to have more energy, because we are not going to spend that on harmonizing with others. And this will bring happiness at a certain point of time.
Also peace. I agree with what you said. Is for me, I just know as a person, or just like there's so many things I need and want to accomplish. Like a naturally ambitious person, and I feel peace and sleep really well by thinking and also practicing all the steps that you're taking. So it sounds a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like all the little buckets that we need to meet along the way. So when thinking about how to balance out all these practices and tools and systems, at the end of the day, like what is it that you do with your time, right? How do you manage your day, and what do you carve out for yourself? So here are some really basic, direct ways that you can integrate both an uplifting feeling into your day. One is, yes, yoga or exercise, laughter. There's an actual program that I've learned about that's laughter therapy. I laugh all the time. Sometimes I'm reading something on my iPhone or my previous iPhone, or I'm reading something, on LinkedIn, and I just die laughing. And I sit with friends, family, other people, like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, oh, I'm reading this thing, and then I have to, of course, be mindful that I'm cracking up at something that I find funny. And 9 times out of 10, I'm probably the only one that's going to think it's funny. But if you're comfortable with that, or you have a sense of humor, if you can add humor into your day, there are a lot of studies out there that support that activity. So if you can laugh a couple times a day, would definitely encourage that. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. And so long as it's mostly appropriate, it's pretty harmless, right? As long as somebody doesn't take it in a way that's bad. If you're sitting at a table reading and drinking a coffee, that's pretty simple. Look at a cartoon or read a narrative. So hobbies. One of the areas that people seem to lose focus on when they run a company or they start something new, or they've been, maybe you're in a larger company and you want to start a new division, or you've been taxed with that duty. Having time for hobbies and setting time throughout your day in order to make sure that happens. So if I look at the picture on the screen, there are a couple of things that are pictured on the hobbies area that I integrate into my day, no matter how. If I've worked a 14-hour day, I like to cook. I like to prepare my own food as much as I possibly can. It's both better for my health, but also I enjoy the art of cooking. I ride a bike as frequently as I can, or as much as my body will allow, right? Because like many of us, we're getting older, not younger. And so that's, practicing moderation in the activities is important. I love music. I integrate it wherever I can. I'm not 21 anymore, so probably not going to be out at a show as much, but I have a lot of different podcasts and different stations that I listen to. And I also am interested in new artists. So I follow, independent music blogs or things of that nature. So that's a hobby for me. It doesn't take much time. And if I set a reminder for it, I just get updates about different music that's coming out. And for me, that is interesting. And it, keeps my brain active in a certain area. Some people fish, some people jump rope. At the end of the day, just picking what those things are and making sure they happen and then integrating them. So if you are working from home, if it's 12 p.m. and you want to make lunch, rather than drive up the street or run out and get, say, like a burger or, a salad that may have, 2,000 calories in it, make that salad at home, and you probably will save money by doing that, and also save your waistline. But there is also an enjoyment that comes with putting food together. So some people hate cooking. So I would say whatever it is that you do enjoy, if you want to sing karaoke, right? Like you have the singers on the screen, do that. Whatever it is that you need to do. I have a friend that's also a mental health expert professional. And during the pandemic, she was recording these singing sessions from her kitchen. It was amazing to watch. She's like this very well-respected mental health professional at Todor. So she's based here in the US. And I would, log on Facebook and there would just be this, singing serenade. And I loved it. I thought it was great. It's so wonderful for people to be themselves. So I'm not telling you have to broadcast yourself on Facebook, but what I'm saying is in that space of being uncomfortable, pick a few hobbies or things that may take you outside of your daily routine, and then find the ones that work for you and integrate them so you bring balance. And with all of those different options, have fun. If it doesn't work, pick something else, enjoy yourself, and end your day on a high note as much as possible, because there will be a lot of hurdles along the way. Todor, do you have thoughts?
Yes, I really like your imagery here. And it reminds me to something that I often tell to my clients, to set aside time for personal wellness, like whatever they choose, to meditate. And they start arguing, but I don't have time. And then I said, could you book a call with yourself once in a while, like even once a week, if you cannot make it for a day? And they start to ponder on the thought, and often they come back and say, you know what, I saved this time for myself, and I for example, went shopping or done my hair. It's not particular wellness activity, but it's time for self-care. And that is a step forward. That is like we spoke about looking at the closed door. This is a step back in order to see other possibilities. So yeah, that is something that popped up.
I appreciate that. On the, the human life experience or work experiences, one of the other areas that I've received feedback in my life, direct feedback, is that I can be fun to work with. So remembering to have fun in our day is good, but if the community that you're working with or people that are around you also enjoy having fun, integrating fun into your daily work practices or being fun to interact with can also make you happier, or potentially offer new business opportunities for you. So kind of rounding all of that out, I'm a serious person, tend to be like a friendly introvert. I like to do a lot of heavy reading, but at the same time, I also can be known for being jovial or funny. And so being respected for what you know how to do, I would imagine that hits home for everybody, but especially a solopreneur, if you're an individual provider or practitioner, it's okay to also be fun to interact with. And I've talked with a couple of people, both throughout my career and also in advisory, who have taken life so seriously, right? They forget to have fun during the day. Maybe if you're experiencing a really busy time, like a 16-hour a day, every single week period of work, find a way to integrate that fun into your day. Find someone that you feel comfortable with, and find a way to make a joke or to enjoy one another's time or do some sort of group activity. I think that we're about 10 minutes away, or we have just a few more minutes. Hillary, did you want to move into questions? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys are set, we're happy to take questions. We actually did have one question during the discussion. Esteban, he asks, how do you know when to lift heavier, like take on more challenging projects? So you're talking about to continue that growth mindset, to kind of keep adding to the weights, but when exactly do you know that it's a good time to up your game or try to add something new or go outside your comfort zone?
I'll go first and then hand it over to Todor. So for me, it's cost benefit analysis, right? So if you excuse the MBA, but you think about like how much time am I spending and what am I going to get out of this situation, right? At the point that I start to feel drained and I'm not able to meet other obligations, I think about sort of my checklist of what am I doing every day? What am I doing every week? How much time do I have? What do I still need to accomplish? I don't have to put that into a spreadsheet, but I can just kind of think. And my brain is very analytical naturally. I think it's it's my second top characteristic in my strengths finder. I always sort of have an inventory of how much time I want to spend. For someone who leads more with emotion, that can be how much time do I feel overwhelmed in my day? So if you're feeling like you have to make a decision about taking on a new board role or a new assignment or a new client, does that make you feel overwhelmed and why? And you'll learn something from asking yourself why.
I can also jump in here because emotions are our signals, our feedback system, and actually our physiology as well. And when we feel the frustration, when we don't know what those emotions are, we most probably need to stop and to see, as Jenny said, is this necessary? Can I spare extra time, extra resources, dedicate this time to this extra goal? Or it is going to leave me with more stress, with no time for myself, for self-care, no time for my loved ones. And if the price is too high, you just need to learn to let go. I know this is the same dopamine drive that I spoke at the beginning of, when we see that we are going to miss something, miss a reward, potential new customer. But then there are other hormones we need to cultivate in ourselves, endorphins. We need to be happy, right? We need this energy and time for ourselves as well, because if we from time to time don't go from the fast line to the more slow lines on the highway, we are maybe not going to continue our journey. So allow yourself to go slow, and even sometimes to go in the, what do we call this in English? The line where you stop to fix if something is broken. And remember to put your mask first. This metaphor in the airplane, where if you're with your kid and air pressure drops and mask fall, if you don't put the mask on yourself first, you won't be able to take care of your kid or the other person around you, persons. So it's hard choice, but when it is when you are aware of what are the gains, I think you can prioritize.
That is great. I actually had a question myself. So Jennifer, I loved how you were saying that sharing ourselves is really great for networking and for growth. And I know some people here have a natural openness to them and they don't have an issue with sharing themselves, while others maybe don't have that natural tendency, or they're just more uncomfortable with it. For someone who isn't used to sharing themselves or aren't used to having that openness, what do you guys recommend the first steps are to start that practice or start being more open and vulnerable with people? Because you both of you talked about that quite a bit in multiple segments.
Todor, do you want to go first, or do you want me to tackle?
Yeah, I can actually share a story because my first profession after university was to work in a public relations company. And my first assignment was to call 100 journalists for an event. And I dreaded speaking on the phone. I was sitting there for almost an hour without daring to call anybody, and I was looking just in the screen of my computer, and I was wondering what I'm going to do. Am I quitting, or am I somehow going to call these strange people? So my supervisor looked at me and said, "Look, Todor, these people don't know you. If you call them and speak to them as friends, they will believe that you've met, and they'll be possibly very friendly with you. So just start. There is no other way." And I did it. I was speaking to them like we are long-term friends, and they responded, and some of them even were ashamed that they can't remember me. Which is a bit of manipulation, of course, but I've managed to do my task. So it was a huge step. So I would not recommend doing this, but maybe you can join a group with colleagues or friends that you know, and start ask them questions that are outside of your zone of comfort, and in time you build this resilience, social resilience, and you dare to do more, like in a session with strangers. Our mind naturally tells us to run away from something that we don't know. So if we decentralize ourselves in social situations that are less threatening, then we can continue with other situations that were a lot more threatening long time ago.
Bring a buddy. That's my one. So when I first started networking, I went with someone else who was also looking to grow their career. Being a friendly introvert, I can talk for like an hour straight. I don't mind me. So long as it's a good conversation, I don't mind. But if I talk to 65 people all back to back, it gets really overwhelming. And so thinking about boundaries and setting time for myself, in order for me to be comfortable networking, I have to also know that I need to be done with it at some point. Or sometimes it can be a support to have like 1 to 2 people that go with me. And as a 31-year-old, so this is a while ago, well over a decade. As a 31-year-old, I moved to a new city, and I was looking for a new job, and another friend of mine also was, and I went to my first networking event, and there were probably like 100, 150 people there. I was so grateful that I had a friend who was there, because you could kind of move around the room and talk to people, and we don't have the same profession at all or anything like that, but it was just nice to have somebody else in the room. So if I needed a break or a breather, or someone else to help leave, like if you're in a conversation as a group, right, someone else can like interject. So I think that's a great way for people that are super uncomfortable with talking to new people. Have somebody go with you that is professionally connected to you, and don't be worried about leaving early. Stay long enough to meet like 5 people. So if you really don't like being in a big networking event, or pick out a couple of people that you want to meet in advance, or say, I want to meet at least 3 to 5 people before I leave, and then do that and call it a day or call it a night. It's okay. Just make a decision before you go about what you want to accomplish. and or bring support systems or support tools with you.
Love it. Just great. Thank you both, Jennifer and Todor. Really, really fabulous information, great tips, lots of really great quotes from both of you. Really great. For anybody who wants to connect with Jennifer or Todor, they're available on Introwise. I'm sending the links. Jennifer does offer meet and greet, so if you want to learn about working more with her, and Todor is available if you want to learn more about reality therapy, whether you want to be certified yourself or you're looking for a referral. Both of them are available to meet with you. And thank you guys so much for today. It was really, really insightful.
Really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for having both of us, actually. And it's wonderful to have all of you in the call. Thank you so much. Very grateful for your time.
Thanks, everybody. It was a delight to spend this time with you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world.